Welcome to our first Q&A episode of Adventures in Truth. I did not go Hollywood on you. I just had my eyes dilated. There's all these things I have to do I can't do. So I said to Heather, do you feel like recording an episode? And you said,
well, okay.
No, what she said was, I could feel you wanting to get something done.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did say that. Yeah.
So we have some questions, and Heather's going to read them off. We're going to answer them based on the book, where you can find it, or based on our experience, if there's something that's not in the book that came up. So hopefully, whether you've read the book or not, you'll get value. But especially if you're reading the book, this might answer some of your questions. Ready?
You ready?
Yeah. Do you need to say anything else to be present?
Ready.
One more thing. Our son, it was a day off from school. It's very icy. He's home. I told him we're recording, but if you hear a door slam or jumping around or something, that's him.
Yeah. Ready?
Ready.
All right.
Question one.
I want to be honest, but sometimes I don't even know what I'm feeling until later. How can I speak my truth when I don't recognize it in the moment?
So this is actually in the book. There's a troubleshooting or frequently asked questions that talks about this. First of all, if you don't know, what is it? I don't know what I'm feeling, or I don't know what my truth is. What was it?
Don't even know what I'm feeling until later.
Okay. So the first thing you say is, I'm participating here, but I don't even know what I feel until later, because that's the truth. That's called sharing what's underneath what you want to share. You'll see that there. And people do have questions about that. So what you have to do, I've also heard it called speaking to your resistance. So basically you say out loud what would be keeping you from saying what it is you want to say. As complicated as that may sound, it's actually very simple. Like, I think they'll hate me if I say this. I'm afraid you'll hate me if I say this, but, and then you say it. Okay, go ahead. What?
You used to say, hang a lantern on it.
Hang a lantern on it. Now that's a filmmaking technique, or maybe a point of view, which is if you make a mistake, shine a light on it, go toward it, do something with the mistake. An example, which Heather clued me in on, is the Jim Carrey version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
Where apparently he was supposed to pull a tablecloth off and everything was supposed to fall off the table. And he pulled the tablecloth off and he did the magic trick where nothing fell off. So he stormed away, came back on camera and knocked everything off with his arm.
And then knocked the table over.
So that's when you go with the mistake. And in this case, you're going with the resistance. You're voicing the resistance.
Let me see. And it says, how can I speak my truth when I don't recognize it in the moment? So that's exactly how you word it. You say, I don't know what my truth is in the moment, so I can't speak to it.
Yep. And you'll find out,
that's the truth in the moment.
That's the truth in the moment. And you'll find out that other things come up when you start voicing the when you start giving voice to that resistance.
Okay, let's see. You ready for another one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. One of us is more emotionally expressive and the other shuts down when things get tense. How do we bridge that gap without making each other feel wrong?
Well, I don't know how far you are in the book, but making each other feel wrong, I can't make Heather feel wrong. If she feels wrong, I may have said something that triggered it, but her feelings are her own and my feelings are my own. So that part.
That's a whole thread to pull on right there.
Yep. And I talk in the book about codependency. However, I got the gist of the question, which is one of you has easy access to your emotions and one of you shuts down when the moment comes to talk?
When things get tense.
Okay. So for the one of you who's emotionally expressive, I'm going to guess you could progress as usual. For the one who shuts down when things get tense, and I want you to weigh in here, I would recommend that you say, it's starting to seem tense to me and I'm starting to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your partner is curious with your journey, they will say, what is shutting down like, for example? Or will they say, what about the conversation feels tense to you? And then you can explore that moment. But if you catch it in the moment that you're shutting down, again, you'll be surprised at what emerges, because you're not actually shut down until you're shut down. And when you are shut down, when you voice I'm shut down, it's like that crack that comes in when you're in a deep, dark cave and you're like, where's the way out? Daylight. That's daylight. You let the daylight in. So any comments on that?
Yeah. So I am both an emotionally expressive person and I have the capability of shutting down at times. And I'm just leaning into my experience of shutting down, and a question that might get me like that little crack you're talking about, a thread might be like, what benefit do I get out of shutting out or shutting down? Is there a need that I'm giving fulfilling for myself by shutting down? Are there emotions I'm like suppress, like start to acknowledge the shutdown? And then that will definitely kind of at least give you an inner world to start exploring. And then for the person who is emotionally expressive in the moment, who like has that expectation of like, we need to actually communicate, there is that holding space for silence. So just that person can reflect on, well, what is it like for me to be having this conversation with someone who shuts down? Like, go into what am I in need of that's not getting fulfilled right now? And so you can just, it might be a time for you to go and take a break. And maybe you can go, I don't know, journal or something, and then play one of the games to reconnect. The closeness counter might be a good one for those types of moments where you're, expressing or taking turns listening and holding space, and just how
the closest counter works. The full instructions are in the book, but basically you move closer or further away, or you can use this if you have mobility issues or you just don't feel like being on the floor. But it's very, very powerful if you can get down on the ground, especially in a room that's rectangular, and you move closer or farther away based on what the other person says.
How you feel about the chair. And
right, your inner reaction to what that person said.
Yeah.
And there's more to it. Is there more for you?
No, not right this second. No.
So I want to just tell you something that went on while Heather was talking. You may have noticed the moment where I gave her the word fulfilling. She was going to pick something else. She realized it was correct, maybe, or it seemed to me that she was going to pick something else. She turned to me and said, yeah, fulfilling went on. Now, inside me, and I doubt you'll be able to see it if you back up the video, but inside me, I started to feel worried that I was going to get in trouble. Is she mad at me? I started to be sort of hypervigilantly perceiving anything that would indicate she was mad, beating myself up, feeling ashamed of myself. Do I have to comment to you and tell you I interrupted, but you really shouldn't be giving people words? So all that stuff, I let that happen. And Heather was talking. It did distract me for a few seconds. And then I let it happen for longer than a few seconds. And then it moved into something else. So I just want you to know that our inner worlds are happening sometimes when we don't even realize it. And maybe me sharing that lit up something in you. Again, we let that daylight in. This is a different example of it. This is letting the daylight in on, oh, I have an inner world. I didn't realize I had that inner world. We do. Go on. Is there more for you? I'm sorry. I just thought.
Well, no. What's happening is I'm in this contemplative place.
Did it again. I'm beating myself.
Since I do struggle with pronunciation of things, so I do turn to you. And we've been together for so long now, and we know each other, and we've worked on our communication so intimately that you can kind of tell sometimes when I'm leaning into you. So
yes, but I'm also, part of it is to rescue you. Like I worry about another person's feelings, and I sit with this as a coach. I worry about another person's feelings, and then I want to go in and rescue them with the right word so they don't have to sit in the discomfort of not knowing what word to pick. I do that with David too. Dave, but again, like you and me, David and I have that's a longtime friend and creative partner that I do a football podcast with. We have this shorthand too, where he likes when I fill him in. So
sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, and that's just the risk, but
it's a risk,
yeah.
but I would rather not take it if I know that you don't like it most of the time. And
I don't have them most of the time. I'm really random about it.
how often do I give you words to fill it?
It's not super often anymore.
I think it's because we're on camera and I'm worried about you, like being uncomfortable.
Oh, so there could be a little bit more of holding space for the silence for me to a little bit of that. Let me unwind into my stuff.
And I have to let myself feel more uncomfortable because sitting in the kitchen, it's not like we're not being us, but sitting in the kitchen versus recording sitting in the kitchen.
So there's like an expectation we're supposed to fill every second for you guys versus.
I suffer worrying about I suffer worrying about their experience of the video. There's some tiny flavor sometimes of it has to be entertaining, but mostly I don't want it to be confusing. You know how I am about confusion.
We just did confusion, so.
And I feel like the superpower of it is, okay, because I'm so sensitive to confusion and because I have felt so much pain about my confusion, I try to eliminate. I've done that with Wesley for a long time. I make it a point to try to set people's listening up so that they won't sit there in confusion. And I feel really fulfilled about it, but it's not always an easy emotion, an easy energy to sit with. The part that compels me to make sure people aren't confused.
I understand.
Especially in a Q&A session. I don't want them to sit there in confusion. But you go ahead. If you see something for me, I'll look.
No, I don't see anything for you necessarily. I just have my own experience of like expectations of how I want this to be received. And I sincerely want authenticity to be received. So if I'm flailing for a word and you don't come in until I ask you, that's authentic. And that's letting me be and be responsible for my space. And I'll get there. I unwind differently. And, I don't think every moment of the podcast needs to be filled with something. Or if we can't help it sometimes if the viewer feels confused. Like we can't read their minds and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if you're feeling confused about something, feel free to write us and ask us a question about it, and then we will come back to it. Your whole entire other podcast is conversations based off of conversations.
Yeah.
So you guys have a whole podcast episode, and then you re-listen to it, and you're like, ooh, I got a question about that. So please feel free if we've left you in a state where you need an answer for something.
We haven't left you. If you find yourself in a state, I'm not going to make myself responsible for your confusion. And that's because I suffer so much, I did this whole thing to try that you wouldn't need to work with people like Heather and me unless you're in a dire situation, that you can work through your stuff yourself with this manual. I tried to do it so people aren't confused.
I feel like that is an excellent goal for anyone who's in a coaching position. I love that you put that in there. That you said you want to basically give people the tools to do it themselves, because I don't feel like that's done enough. I don't feel like that's a method that people take enough when they're in a position of coaching, because they rely on that income or whatever. I really like that you're trying to help people build their own toolbox.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I want to say something. I'm going to say the person's name because I'm simply telling the truth. I'm not going to say the person I spoke with, but I was asked to interview to coach for Tony Robbins. And in the interview, I explained, because we have to talk about how do we keep clients we already have and those kinds of things. And explained to this person that my goal is to always make people not depend on coaching, but to be able to depend on themselves and each other.
Mm.
And this person said to me, well, everybody needs coaching. I have a coach. And I declined the interview predominantly because I could see, not only by her answer, but by what she was telling me in this free interview process, that the idea is to make you get continued coaching. I don't agree with that. What I was going to say is, how is that supportive of you? I want you to light the fire in yourself. You come when you need me. Mary Poppins, which I liken us to, I liken us to two things. One, a referee who's on both your sides all the time, not neutral. I'm on your side and your side. But also, I liken us to Mary Poppins. If you remember that movie, that family was in a state of crisis. The father was real serious, and the nannies kept quitting, and the kids were really, their behavior was, they were acting out because they were very unhappy. They didn't get enough attention from their dad. So Mary Poppins comes in, and once the dad's fire is lit and the kids' love for the dad is lit and the family's out flying a kite, off she goes on her umbrella. That's how I want you to see us. We're here if you need us, but the goal is to make you independent, not dependent. Sorry, that's a little editorializing, but go ahead.
And I want to touch on, I like independent, but I've been
Interdependence, absolutely.
Yes.
Interdependent means I can depend on me, and sometimes I can depend on you and me, and sometimes I can depend on you to do things that I'm not gifted at.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interdependence, I fully support. Yes.
Yes.
Independent and interdependent.
Are we ready for another question?
Let's go.
Are you ready for another question?
I think I have, this is what I have going on, because can you tell I'm like really in it?
Yeah.
I just had my eye hammered for the second time by a doctor, poking and prodding, like it feels as if they were putting on their whole weight on me. And I opened up to the experience, and she watched the whole thing. It looks brutal.
Yeah.
And I think I feel really powerful because I just survived. If that makes any sense. So I'm just all cranked. Go ahead.
I love that, though. I love that. I love that you wanted to put it into this, too. You're like, let's get creative. All right, you ready?
Yeah, because I'm laying here blind, but full of energy. Not blind, blurry, but full of energy.
All right. How do we deal with resentment? Even when we resolve things, sometimes the hurt lingers and it's hard to let go.
Okay. Now, I just said about working with us. If there's something that's particularly difficult to let go, and you guys tried this and it's not enough for some reason, let's say. Certain resentments, there are some, pain can be caused by anything. So I don't want to compare pain, but there are some events in life that can be very painful and are known to be very painful. The way to work through resentments, as you'll see in the book, is to share them and to get understanding for them. When you keep them inside, they can kill a relationship. But let's take betrayal, because that's the one that was coming up when I was choosing my words carefully. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I forgot to shut off my phone. Let me do that right now. Let's take betrayal, and just give me a second. She'll hold the, thanks. That's lemonade, in case you're wondering. It's not pickle juice. Okay.
I'm sorry. That just sounded funny.
Because it looks like pickle juice.
Okay, back to resentment.
Yeah. Let's take betrayal. I think we were just watching something where somebody said, like, there's no way back after, I can't remember what we were watching. If a partner has gone behind your back and had a physical interaction with someone else, well, it's understandable that you would feel certain feelings. and they would feel certain feelings. But it does not mean they don't love you. And what I want to tell you, you can take it to mean that. It may mean they have issues that go beyond, and it may mean that they don't love you. But it does not, on the face of it, mean they don't love you. I will give you a story. I went out with this girl once, and she asked me out to a restaurant, Cozy Restaurant. I think they're a chain, so hopefully wherever you're listening, you'll hear it. Bring our lunch to the table, and she starts to shake. She says, I have something to tell you. I'm like, okay. And her voice is trembling, and she says, I'm not making fun of her at all. I'm just imitating. I hear voices that's very musical. She says, when you go out of town, I get very lonely. And when you've been going out of town, I'm so lonely that I've called my ex-boyfriend, and we have had sex a few times, and I'm very sorry. And I sat there. I felt shocked, as you might expect. I felt confused. I felt hurt. I felt angry. But most of all, I saw a person in front of me who valued me enough to tell me the truth, even though it made her look awful. She valued the truth was important. So I remember saying, okay, is there anything else? And she was weeping for minutes and minutes. That same person, interestingly enough, and I'd love to hear your reaction, but I want to finish that same person, we would have communication that I felt was conscious, respectful, whatever. And if it would get a little bit elevated, suddenly she would get up, walk to the door, leave my apartment building, gone, drive away, gone. And I'm like, what just happened? Well, after we broke up, we had a very civilized completion conversation. What did Rachel call it on Friends? Closure. She got closure. And I said to her, we used to have that, and you would get up and bolt out of the apartment and leave. She said, yeah, in my family growing up, that's the point at which we started to insult each other. And I have too much respect for you to do that to you. And I always appreciated those things. So that's that same person who, if you want to label it, I'm not so big about labels, and I can tell you labels are a fall from grace, and I could show you any number of consciousness manuals which will back me up. If you want to label it, well, she cheated on me, she betrayed me. She came and told me the truth. Our relationship did continue past that point. And I'd love to know your comments on that.
Did you resent her?
I'm really thinking about it. That's why I'm quiet. Because I have to go back. I know I was angry. Definitely remember feeling angry. I definitely remember feeling like hurt, sad, shocked. I felt kind of ugly.
Okay.
But her words really echoed. And so there was something about her words that made me feel kind of attractive too, and manly. And, like to me, she's giving me this, she never did it again. I can tell you that. She was ratting on herself, if you will. And when people tell the truth about something they haven't been telling the truth about, and I coached a couple on this. I'm sorry, I'm getting off the topic, but this person, the man in the heterosexual thing, he would not hear what I was saying. I said, he was accusing her of not telling her the truth, not telling him the truth about something. And she started to admit it. He was like, see, I told you. I said, no, relax. Which I didn't say relax. And you shouldn't say that to someone when they're upset, because that's like basically stifling their emotions. But I said to this person, I said their name, and I said, can you see that they are deactivating the mechanism that was making them lie to you in the first place. Unfortunately, this person wouldn't see it, that he wouldn't see it. I believe when someone tells you about something that they are doing that is a betrayal of some kind, and they admit it, I use the word ratting on this as it's a harsh term. They're really coming to terms with their own dishonesty, their own misbehavior. You and I had to go through that. I have respect for people who do that.
Did you resent her?
Yes, I did get off track, didn't I? I think, as I recall, no, I did not resent her, but it took a while to trust her in that area of life again. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about how do we deal with resentment,
that's fair.
And even when we resolve things, sometimes the hurt lingers and it's hard to let go. What came to my mind was the fact that I still kind of resent you. We were just talking about this last night. I still kind of resent you. So years ago, I finally got into the gym and I was working out and I was doing well. And I had to get in the car and I had to drive, 25 minutes just to get to the gym. But I liked it that way because it motivated me. Once I was a certain point away from my house, I was committed. So I was going. And then you're like, we should probably find a gym closer because you came from this area where everything is really close. And I came from, I guess, the sticks where driving, far away wasn't something I was like dissatisfied with.
Can I take you off your track just to remind you? I mean, they said they were opening up a branch in our city.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Within 3 months, I'm like, well.
I totally understand. But here's the thing. I knew the space that I was in. I knew the area. I knew the drive. I had a whole routine set up.
Right.
Right. And you came in and you said, let's sign up for one that's closer. That was years ago and I never got back into the gym. And yes, I resent your influence on me. And at the same time, I take responsibility for my role in saying, yes, okay, blah, 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 blah. But what I do though, is every single time it comes up, I speak to it. Because if we're wanting to talk about what to do with the resentment, I suggest talking about it every single time it comes up. Talk about the pain, talk about the hurt, talk about everything that comes, anything new, anything old, and then just allow your partner, the person who's on the other end of it, just allow that to happen. You got to play a game, play one of the games. Isn't there one that's like Switch or something? I'm not good at remembering.
Okay, but go on.
But pick a game that feels right, talk show or something, and just set a timer. And the one who's feeling that resentment come back up, that hurt, that pain, sit there and say, what is coming up for you? Anything new? Anything? And then the other person can say, I heard you. I hear you. I understand. And just as many times as it takes, as many times as you're willing to listen, as many times as you're willing to, approach the topic and talk about it. And just, that is what I suggest doing with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I want to piggyback on that because I have one with her and she knows what it is. Mm-hmm. She's brought this up to me multiple times. Now, we have a conscious relationship. I don't know what it would be like if somebody weren't conscious about it. She brings it up and she tells me, and I've heard it before, and I get it every time. And I feel sad. I feel guilty. I wish I could go back and do it differently. And I always say, you want to join the gym over here? I try to fix it.
I want to say one more thing when you
go.
But every single time I bring it up now, there's less pain in it. There's less upsetness about it. I don't feel doesn't feel as activated anymore. Now it's kind of like I'm now honestly, I say, I'm going to blame you, even though I know that now it's just all up to me. I don't actually blame you. Now it's a playful thing because it's gotten to this place where like it's not actually resentment anymore. It's just like it's still there because I'm not satisfied with my actions in relation to this specific thing. Okay, sorry. Not sorry, but sorry.
So I want you to know that whenever she does bring it up, I have one, which is seemingly as, I don't want to say yours is small. It's not, but
It's a big deal to me.
It's a big deal. This one was a big deal and is a big deal to me. And you have loved me in countless ways since the time this happened. And yet I still have anger in me when it comes up, which is we cut the cord a bunch of years ago. I don't think we've ever had cable. Oh, I think we had DirecTV down in Georgia 1 year because they gave a free thing. So where we live, we don't get the football station that the Detroit Lions are on, and Heather and I are big fans. And so one day she thought, and I'm the technology guy, and if you know our relationship, you will know that the only times I've gotten upset that have not had to do with something in our relationship are when technology goes on the fritz. Then I start F-bombing. So did he do a thumbs up?
Did a thumbs up.
All right. Thumbs up to the F-bomb.
Go ahead.
So she once tried to do the technology herself and reprogrammed the television because that football station wasn't coming in. And then, unfortunately, we lost the station entirely. So every Sunday or whenever the Lions play, I have to go through the agony of, okay, we've got this other way to get in there. Is it going to work? Is it not? How many times are we going to redo it? Do I have to turn on the radio? And I'm frustrated. And I told her, okay, well, this sure makes up for that, which that isn't anybody's job to make up for things. But I'll say it jokingly, I still have the resentment. And I think it's kind of funny. And
well, we've gotten to a place where we've said it enough times that there's not the same amount of feelings. It's got different feelings attached to it now.
Yeah, because I know I can talk about it. I don't talk about it as much as she talks about the gym.
Which I don't talk about very.
No, very. But let's say every 6-8 months.
Yeah.
Come up. And it's still alive in you. And that, as you talk, I'm like, well, dang, the fact that that's still alive in me too. Isn't it funny? These tiny little resentments, they don't have to create separation if you can talk about it. And that was her point. That's exactly right.
Also, my point is,
and it's the truth. If all you're saying is the truth, when you tell it, I still have resentment. Okay. But at least you get to voice it. And when you voice it, everything is different. Go, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And if the person on the receiving end of, so we got partner one and partner two. Partner one is resentful of partner two, right? And if partner two, upon receiving the information, I'm still feeling resentful from partner one, partner two feels shame or anger or defensiveness. Okay. That is your journey in this. And that's where you're at right now. And that's valid too. And so if you do it in a responsible container, if you do these conversations with this method, with the games that are built to keep you psychologically safe, and then you can work through that as well with your partner. Your partner will get to express their resentment, will get to say everything, and then you're sitting there and you're taking notes. You're paying attention to your inner world, and then you can say, okay, and in response, I hear you, I understand you, it all makes sense, and this is everything I have going on inside as well. So you're both getting a chance to exist. Nobody's saying, no, like, it's not a point fingers type of moment. It's this human is experiencing this, and this human is experiencing this. And the more that you kind of like stay in that space over time, it'll change. You'll learn something about yourself. You'll learn about your partner, and it'll just feed that connection even more. And even if it
No, it's good.
And even if it takes longer than you want it to, that impatience is a part of what you're experiencing. Like, you just get over it already. That is a part of what you're experiencing. And just in the fact of being able to have the conversation as many times as you need, it'll build connection. Like, even if you don't work through or get rid of, or you're still feeling the pain or the hurt, just the fact that your partner is willing to sit there and listen and honor what you're going through, that will build connection, and that'll start to build trust, and that'll contribute to your relationship and your ability to keep coming back even more. Like, you're building momentum in the connection.
Yeah, and I want to say that, still talking about resentment, that in your situation, I'll just let you into our relationship. Well, that's our goal anyway. But in terms of, Heather catches waves of energy. At least that's how she's been to this point in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So she will catch a wave of energy, and suddenly this house, much like Mary Poppins, will be magically spiffy.
Oh, yeah.
Spick and span. So she caught a wave to work out. And then I did the thing, and she has never caught that wave since.
Mm-mm.
And so she still has that resentment. The football channel was wiped out on our TV. It still isn't back. I still have that resentment. One day, I believe she will catch that wave. She will generate. And I predict, and we'll let you know, I predict the resentment will no longer exist. The recollection of it may, and it will turn funny. Same for me. The football channel is going to come back one of these times, and when it does, I will find the whole experience funny. That is what I predict. I'll let you know if those things are true. I can see nothing. Everything's blurry.
We're at 37 minutes.
I think we should stop. I heard from a guy who I do not trust in any way, except for the idea that they would try to give this kind of information accurately. This person told me that 30-minute chunks are about as much as people like to digest. Now, hopefully, though, if it's longer, they would pause, but I'm good stopping here. What do you say?
Well, see, I wasn't as energized at first, and then now I'm like, let's go.
All right, let's keep going.
Oh, no. What we can do a part 2.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hit stop, and then we can do some more.
All right, we're going to do some more questions, and this way you can digest and come back.
Which is this it?
No, I'll
okay. See you next time.